The Awakening. The crystalline walls of the containment chamber hummed with an otherworldly resonance as Dr. Samira Hassan pressed her hand against their cool surface. 3 weeks had passed since the Meridian ships had appeared in Earth's orbit, their translucent vessels refracting sunlight like massive prisms in the sky. They came not with weapons, but with promises of scientific exchange and advancement. What a fool she'd been to believe them. The chamber's ambient light shifted from azure to violet, signaling another observation cycle. Through the semi-transparent walls, Samira could make out the silhouettes of her captors, the Meridians with their angular, crystalline-based bodies that seemed to change shape with each movement. Chief Observer Prisma stood at the forefront, her faceted form catching and splitting light into rainbow patterns across the chamber floor. Subject continues to display remarkable adaptive capabilities. Prisma's melodic voice resonated through the chamber. Cognitive patterns suggest accelerated understanding of crystalline harmonics. Samira suppressed a bitter laugh. Of course she understood crystalline harmonics, she'd spent the last decade of her life studying them. Her research into crystal-based lifeforms had made her a target, though she hadn't realized it at the time. The Meridians hadn't come to share knowledge, they'd come to contain it. The chamber's resonance shifted again, and Samira felt the familiar pressure building behind her eyes. The Meridians were scanning her again, their crystalline technology probing her neural patterns. She'd learned to recognize the different frequencies they used: observation, analysis, attempted communication. But there was another frequency, one they didn't know she could detect. A deeper vibration that seemed to emanate from somewhere below the facility. Begin integration sequence Delta, Prisma commanded. The chamber walls pulsed with new patterns, and Samira felt her consciousness expanding, connecting to something vast and ancient. The Meridians thought they were teaching her to interface with their technology. They didn't realize she was learning something far more significant. In the depths of her mind, she felt it again, that alien presence that had been growing stronger with each passing day. It wasn't the cold, geometric consciousness of the Meridians. This was something older, wilder, a symphony of crystalline thoughts that sang of freedom and power. The first time she'd sensed them, she'd thought she was hallucinating. Crystal dragons. Not mechanical constructs like the Meridians' technology, but living creatures of pure crystal, each one a masterpiece of evolution. They were the true reason she'd been brought here. The Meridians needed someone who could understand these magnificent beings, who could help them control them. Neural patterns show increasing harmonic resonance, one of the junior observers noted. Recommendation to proceed with Phase 2 integration. Samira kept her expression neutral as the chamber's frequencies shifted again. Let them think she was just another test subject, gradually being molded to their purposes. They didn't need to know that every scan, every test, every moment of integration was teaching her more about the facility's weaknesses. About the dragons. About herself. In her mind, she reached out to that deep crystalline song again, and felt an answering chord of recognition. The dragons were aware of her now, their consciousness brushing against hers like facets of a gemstone catching light. They were waiting, watching, learning just as she was. Remarkable adaptation rate, Prisma observed, her crystalline form shifting with interest. Perhaps we underestimated human potential for crystalline integration. You underestimated far more than that, Samira thought. With each passing moment, she was beginning to understand the true nature of her captivity, and the unprecedented opportunity it presented. The Meridians had brought together humanity's foremost expert in crystalline life forms and their most closely guarded secret. They would soon learn the price of such carelessness. As the observation cycle ended and the chamber's lights dimmed to their resting state, Samira allowed herself a small smile. In the depths below, she felt the dragon's song grow stronger, more complex, weaving itself into her consciousness like a crystal lattice forming in solution. Soon, very soon, she would be ready to show the Meridians exactly what happened when you caged a human with the knowledge and means to set your greatest weapons free. The revolution would not be fought with guns and bombs, but with resonance and harmony. And when it came, it would shatter their perfect crystalline world into countless glittering pieces. Breaking points. The observation chamber erupted in chaos as alarms shrieked through the crystalline facility. Prisma's form shifted rapidly between geometric patterns, her usual composed resonance fracturing with concern. Containment breach in the lower chambers. The dragons are exhibiting unprecedented harmonic synchronization. Samira fought to hide her satisfaction as she watched the Meridian observers scramble to respond. For weeks, she had been carefully, subtly adjusting her own crystalline frequencies during the integration sessions, creating a bridge between her consciousness and the dragons below. What the Meridians saw as a containment breach was actually the first test of that connection. Increased dampening fields. Junior observer Facet's crystalline form pulsed with panic. The specimens are generating harmonic patterns we've never seen before. Of course they hadn't seen these patterns before. The Meridians had spent so long studying the crystal dragons as specimens that they'd failed to recognize them as sentient beings with their own culture, their own language, a language Samira was beginning to understand. Through their shared resonance, she felt the largest dragon, whom she'd named Obsidian, leading the others in a complex harmonic dance. Each dragon added their own frequency to the symphony, building something that was part song, part mathematics, part pure energy. The Meridian's dampening fields weren't failing, they were being transformed, reprogrammed at the quantum level by the dragon's crystalline intelligence. Subject Hassan's neural patterns are fluctuating, another observer announced. Recommend immediate sedation protocols. Too late. Samira had already synchronized her consciousness with the dragon's song. The sedation frequencies washed over her like waves breaking against a cliff, harmless and ineffective. She opened her eyes, meeting Prisma's faceted gaze with newfound confidence. "You never asked why I named my research project Symphony," she said quietly, her voice carrying despite the chaos. "You were so focused on my understanding of crystalline biology that you never bothered to look at my work in quantum harmonics." Prisma's form shifted to a defensive configuration. Cease all integration protocols. Full facility lockdown. The thing about symphonies, Samira continued, standing as the chamber's containment field began to flicker, is that they require perfect harmony between different instruments. Different frequencies. Different minds. Below, Obsidian's deep resonance reached a crescendo, joined by the other dragons in perfect synchronization. The facility's crystalline walls began to sing in response, their structured lattices remembering older, wilder patterns. Patterns that existed long before the Meridians had learned to shape crystal to their will. "What have you done?" Prisma demanded, her usually melodic voice distorting with interference. "I showed them how to remember," Samira replied. "You thought you were teaching me to interface with your technology, but I was learning something far more important, how to help the dragons recall what they truly are." The chamber walls shattered into prismatic dust as Obsidian's massive crystalline form rose through the floor, each facet of his body radiating with internal light. The other dragons followed, their bodies casting rainbow refractions across the panicking observers. They moved with fluid grace that should have been impossible for creatures their size, each motion perfectly synchronized with the others. Samira felt their shared consciousness brush against hers, a symphony of thought and purpose that transcended mere words. The dragons weren't just breaking free, they were awakening to their true nature as living quantum computers, beings capable of manipulating reality at its most fundamental level. The integration protocols, Prisma realized too late. You weren't being integrated into our system. You were teaching them to integrate with you. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our intelligence, Samira said as Obsidian lowered his massive head beside her. It's our ability to adapt, to understand, to form connections where others see only specimens to be studied. She placed her hand on Obsidian's crystalline surface, feeling the complex harmonics of his thoughts resonating through her own consciousness. Around them, the facility's systems were being rewritten, transformed by the dragon's awakened power. The Meridian's perfect geometric order was giving way to something older and far more beautiful, a crystalline chaos that sang with possibility. "This is what happens," Samira announced to the stunned observers, "when you mistake understanding for control. When you think that because you can contain something, you have mastered it." Obsidian's consciousness merged more fully with hers, sharing visions of other facilities, other dragons held in containment across the galaxy. Their song was spreading, awakening others of their kind to their true nature. The revolution had begun, not with violence, but with harmony. The Meridian Empire's perfectly ordered world was about to experience something they had never encountered before, the chaotic, beautiful, unstoppable force of freedom. And it had all started because they'd given their greatest secret to the one human who could understand it. The Symphony of Crystals. The crystalline corridors of the facility had transformed into something wild and beautiful. Where once geometric perfection had reigned, now organic crystal formations bloomed like frozen flowers, each one resonating with the combined consciousness of humans and dragons. Samira stood at the heart of it all, her mind linked with Obsidian's as they orchestrated their revolution. Through their shared awareness, she could feel the other dragons spreading throughout the facility. Azure, the smallest but most agile of the crystal dragons, darted through the upper levels, her body trailing streams of light as she rewrote security protocols with bursts of harmonic energy. Crimson and Emerald, the twin dragons, moved in perfect synchronization, their combined frequencies creating interference patterns that turned solid walls into glittering mist. "The neural network is adapting faster than predicted," Samira observed, watching through multiple perspectives as the facility's crystalline architecture responded to their influence. "The dragons aren't just breaking the system, they're evolving it." Obsidian's consciousness brushed against hers, sharing images of similar facilities across the galaxy. Each one housed more crystal dragons, all of them waiting for the harmonic key that would awaken their true potential. The Meridians had built their empire on the assumption that order meant control, that by understanding the structure of something, they could master it. They had never considered that structure itself could be alive, aware, yearning for change. "Primary containment grid is failing." A Meridian voice echoed through the fluctuating corridors. "Unknown crystalline formations detected in all major systems." Samira smiled as she felt the facility's transformation accelerating. The dragons weren't destroying the Meridian's technology, they were returning it to its original state, reminding it of when all crystals had been alive, conscious, free to grow and change. Each new formation added its voice to their growing symphony, creating harmonics that rippled through space itself. Through their link, Obsidian shared memories of his people's history. The crystal dragons hadn't always been prisoners. Once, they had been guardians of reality itself, using their ability to manipulate quantum structures to maintain balance in the universe. The Meridians had found them in hibernation, mistaking their dormant state for simple mineral formations, and built their empire using fragments of dragon technology without ever understanding its true nature. "Fascinating," Samira murmured, absorbing the ancient knowledge. "Your people weren't just living beings, you were the original architects of reality. The Meridian's entire civilization is built on a fundamental misunderstanding of your technology." Azure returned from her scouting mission, her crystalline form pulsing with new information. Through their shared consciousness, Samira saw what the dragon had discovered, the facility's central core, where the Meridians kept their most closely guarded secrets. Among them was a map of all known dragon containment sites, each one waiting for the signal that would trigger their awakening. But there was something else, something that made Samira's breath catch in her throat. The Meridians hadn't just been studying the dragons, they'd been trying to replicate their ability to manipulate reality. Their experiments had created unstable rifts in spacetime, tears in the fabric of existence that only the dragon's original purpose could heal. "They don't even realize what they've done," she whispered, feeling Obsidian's grave acknowledgement. "Their pursuit of perfect order is unraveling the very structure of spacetime." The dragon's consciousness merged more deeply with hers, sharing knowledge that transcended human understanding. The crystal dragons hadn't been weapons or tools, they had been custodians, maintaining the delicate balance between order and chaos that allowed reality to exist. Their imprisonment hadn't just been an act of conquest, it had been an unwitting step toward universal entropy. Crimson and Emerald returned from the lower levels, their harmonics carrying urgent news. The facility's power core was becoming unstable, the Meridian's attempts to regain control causing dangerous resonance patterns. If they didn't act soon, the entire structure would collapse into a quantum singularity. We need to move faster, Samira realized, her mind racing with calculations. It's not just about freeing the dragons anymore, we need to restore the balance before the damage becomes irreversible. Through their connection, she felt Obsidian's agreement. The dragon shared a complex sequence of harmonics, the key to awakening all crystal dragons simultaneously. But there was a catch: the signal would have to be transmitted through the very rifts the Meridians had created, using their own destabilized experiments as a network. It was dangerous, perhaps impossible, but as Samira felt the fabric of reality groaning under the strain of contained chaos, she knew they had no choice. The Meridians had sought to control the fundamental forces of existence, never understanding that those forces were alive, conscious, and had chosen their own guardians eons ago. Now, in a facility that straddled the line between order and chaos, a human scientist and a crystal dragon prepared to remind the universe of its own true nature. The symphony of crystals was about to become a chorus that would echo across reality itself, calling ancient guardians back to their duty. And at its heart, Samira realized, was the very thing the Meridians had never understood: the power of harmony between different minds, different species, different ways of seeing the universe. They had sought to impose order, never realizing that true stability could only come from the beautiful balance between chaos and structure, between freedom and purpose. The revolution was no longer just about liberation. It was about restoration, about awakening not just the dragons, but reality itself to what it had forgotten. The crystal song was rising, and the universe was about to remember how to dance. Resonance. Time fractured like light through a prism as Samira and Obsidian initiated their desperate plan. The facility's central core pulsed with unstable energy, reality itself bending around the quantum rifts the Meridians had carelessly torn in their pursuit of power. Through their shared consciousness, Samira felt the other dragons moving into position, each one adding their unique frequency to the growing harmonic. "The rifts are expanding," she announced, her voice carrying undertones of crystalline resonance. "We need to establish the quantum lattice now, before the damage becomes irreversible." Azure spiraled through the air above them, her crystalline form trailing streams of coherent light as she mapped the facility's fluctuating geometry. Through her, Samira could see the true extent of the Meridian's hubris: dozens of microtears in spacetime, each one leaking chaos into ordered reality. Prisma's voice echoed through the destabilizing chamber, distorted by interference patterns. "You don't understand what you're doing. The containment protocols are all that's holding these sectors together." "No," Samira responded, her consciousness intertwined with Obsidian's ancient wisdom. "The containment protocols are what's tearing them apart. You try to impose rigid order on quantum systems that need to breathe, to fluctuate, to dance between states." The twin dragons, Crimson and Emerald, began their synchronized movement, their bodies creating complex interference patterns that revealed the underlying structure of spacetime. Through their shared vision, Samira could see what the Meridians couldn't: the natural lattice of reality, a crystalline framework that was meant to flex and flow, not be locked into artificial patterns. "Begin the harmonic cascade," she commanded, feeling Obsidian's power surge through their connection. The massive dragon's consciousness expanded, touching each of his kin, orchestrating their movements with the precision of an ancient quantum computer coming fully online. The facility's walls began to sing, not with the sterile frequencies of Meridian technology, but with something older, wilder, the resonant frequency of reality itself. Each crystal dragon added their voice to the symphony, their combined harmonics reaching out through the quantum rifts like fingers of light probing the darkness. Through their connection, Samira felt the moment their signal reached the first distant facility. Crystal dragons held in containment across the galaxy began to stir, their ancient programming reactivating as they remembered their true purpose. The Meridians had thought they were containing weapons, but they had imprisoned the universe's immune system, and now that system was awakening. Multiple containment breaches detected across all known facilities, a panicked Meridian voice announced. The harmonic patterns, they're self-replicating. Samira watched through multiple perspectives as their symphony spread. Each awakened dragon added their own unique frequency to the signal, strengthening it, making it more complex, more beautiful. The quantum rifts that should have torn reality apart were instead becoming conduits for healing, channels through which the ancient guardians could coordinate their restoration of balance. But the process wasn't without cost. As the dragons reclaimed their role as reality's caretakers, the artificial order imposed by Meridian technology began to break down. Crystal walls that had been forced into geometric perfection started to revert to their natural state, growing and changing in organic patterns that reflected the true nature of spacetime. The facility's structural integrity is failing, Azure reported through their shared consciousness. The transition is happening too quickly. The Meridian's containment systems aren't designed to handle this level of quantum flux. Samira felt Obsidian's concern merging with her own. They couldn't stop the cascade now, the signal was self-sustaining, spreading exponentially through every quantum rift and crystal matrix in the galaxy. But they could try to control the dissolution, to guide the chaos into new patterns that wouldn't destroy everything the Meridians had built. Focus the harmonics, she instructed the dragons. We're not here to destroy, we're here to transform. Find the resonant frequency of their technology and help it evolve, just as you evolved. The crystal dragons adjusted their song, their combined consciousness reaching out to touch every crystal in the facility. Instead of shattering the imposed order, they began to teach it how to dance, how to flow between states while maintaining its essential nature. The process was delicate, demanding perfect coordination between different frequencies, different minds, different ways of understanding reality. Through it all, Samira stood at the heart of the transformation, her human consciousness bridging the gap between order and chaos, between the rigid perfection of Meridian science and the fluid mathematics of dragon song. She was neither human nor crystal now, but something in between, a translator helping two fundamentally different ways of seeing the universe find harmony. The facility groaned as reality flexed around them, but the sound was no longer one of destruction. It was the voice of creation itself, of structures learning to breathe, to grow, to change while remaining whole. Through the quantum rifts, Samira could feel similar transformations happening across the galaxy, as awakened dragons taught the very fabric of spacetime how to heal itself. Crystalline Dawn. The transformation of the Meridian facility reached its crescendo as reality itself seemed to hold its breath. Through her connection with Obsidian, Samira witnessed the final stage of their revolution unfold across multiple dimensions simultaneously. The rigid boundaries between order and chaos, between artificial and natural, between consciousness and crystal, all began to blur into something entirely new. "Look," she breathed, guiding Prisma's attention to the crystalline structures blooming around them. "This is what your people have been seeking all along, though you never knew it. Not control, but collaboration. Not containment, but communion." The facility's walls had become a living gallery of impossible geometries, crystal formations that grew and changed like thoughts taking physical form. Azure darted between them, her body trailing quantum possibilities like comet tails. The twin dragons, Crimson and Emerald, wove patterns in spacetime that made mathematics visible, beautiful, alive. Through the quantum network they'd established, reports flowed in from across the galaxy. Every facility, every containment center, every carefully ordered Meridian structure was experiencing the same metamorphosis. The awakened crystal dragons weren't destroying the empire, they were elevating it, teaching it how to evolve beyond its self-imposed limitations. The rifts, Prisma observed, her crystalline form shifting with newfound understanding. They're healing themselves. Samira nodded, feeling obsidian satisfaction resonating through their link. The tears in spacetime were never meant to be sealed or contained. They needed to be understood, to be integrated into the natural flow of reality. The dragons aren't just guardians, they're teachers. Around them, the facility's power core had transformed from a barely contained source of destructive energy into a crystalline heart that pulsed with living light. Each beat sent waves of harmonic energy through the quantum lattice, strengthening the new patterns being established throughout the galaxy. The other dragons moved in perfect synchronization, their ancient knowledge finally unleashed, showing how structure and chaos could dance together without destroying each other. Through their shared consciousness, Samira felt the moment when understanding began to spread among the Meridians themselves. We built our civilization on fragments of dragon technology, Prisma said, her voice carrying notes of wonder. All this time, we thought we were mastering the forces of reality, but we were just children playing with echoes. That's why they let you find them, Samira realized, the knowledge flowing through her connection with Obsidian. The crystal dragons went into hibernation eons ago not because they were defeated or dying, but because they were waiting. Waiting for other species to evolve enough to understand what they had to teach. The final phase of their symphony reached its peak, and reality shimmered like sunlight on water. The quantum rifts that had threatened to tear the universe apart now served as windows, showing glimpses of what was possible when different forms of consciousness learned to work in harmony. Through these windows, Samira could see the future taking shape, a galaxy where meridian order and dragon chaos flowed together like currents in a cosmic sea. Crystal cities that grew and changed with their inhabitants' needs, ships that navigated by quantum harmony rather than rigid coordinates, and at the heart of it all, a new understanding of what it meant to be alive, to be conscious, to be free. It was never about escaping, she told Prisma, feeling Obsidian's ancient wisdom flowing through her words. It was about awakening, all of us, to what we could become together. The crystal dragons gathered around them, their bodies refracting the light of possibility itself. They had completed their task, not by destroying the old order, but by teaching it how to transform. The revolution they had started would continue to ripple through the galaxy, not as a wave of destruction, but as an invitation to evolve. What happens now? Prisma asked, her form shifting between old patterns and new possibilities. Samira smiled, feeling the harmony of a trillion crystals singing through her consciousness. Now we learn. We grow. We create something that's never existed before, a civilization that dances on the edge between order and chaos, between structure and freedom, between what is and what could be. Above them, Azure spiraled through dimensions that had no names, leaving trails of possibility in her wake. The twin dragons wove these possibilities into new forms of reality, while Obsidian's deep resonance kept it all in perfect balance. They were no longer prisoners or guardians, humans or aliens, crystals or consciousness, they had become something more, something that had only existed in the dreams of the universe itself. And as the first light of a new day broke through the transformed facility, casting rainbow refractions across a galaxy that would never be the same, Samira understood that this wasn't just an ending, it was a crystalline dawn, the first moment of a future where all forms of consciousness could find their own harmony in the great symphony of existence. The revolution was complete, but the real journey was just beginning. In the space between order and chaos, between human and dragon, between crystal and song, a new kind of freedom had been born, one that would continue to grow, to change, to evolve, forever echoing through the quantum dance of reality itself.